You know him as a regular on Gutfeld, Fox News contributor, and also host of Maintaining with Tyrus on Outkick. Tyrus is with us now. Tyrus, thanks for being back with us. It's good to have you here.
Oh, always a pleasure.
Donald Trump is stuck in New York City because of one of these many trials that he's facing, but he's finding himself in the different areas talking to non-traditional Republicans, and it seems as though he's getting some response from people in Harlem, people who are, the union strong. Does any of that surprise you?
No, especially because I think everyone can relate to similar situations where they feel like they've been unfairly accused of something or the system has screwed them over. So there's a lot of people that relate to that. And a lot of people are educating themselves on the cases are like not really sure what the cases are.
Yeah.
In terms of like they don't sound like crimes. And they don't understand, like we were hearing today, isn't some of the pundits on left-leaning networks, aren't they also guilty of influencing elections?
Yeah. I don't feel like the Democrats have taken the lawfare that they, like, it seems as though the Biden administration has had a pinky finger, if not a whole hand, in orchestrating some of this lawfare against Donald Trump. But I don't feel like the messaging is out there that really suggests that Donald Trump is the criminal they're trying to make him out to be. It's like, it's just Donald Trump enough. You're just supposed to understand that he's this big bad guy. That has been enough for a while, but I don't feel like they're pulling this one across the finish line like they're going to need to in November.
Well, they're kind of like you're holding a non-victimless crime to this level, but somebody punches my grandmother in the head, takes her purse, they're out in the afternoon. So people are really seeing it. There's a huge disconnect with that. And I think that given the fact that they were so adamant about defunding the police, they were so adamant about attorney generals not taking cases, and then you see this one. So it's not too hard to figure out the reason for this is just to have him locked up or have the term. The only way they think they win the election at this point is if it says President Biden versus convicted felon, former President Donald Trump. And that convicted felon is what they're basing everything on.
Yeah. Do you think
and Roe versus Wade.
Do you think abortion is going to be the policy that Biden tries to use to get the victory in November?
Yeah, you see Roe versus Wade up on his campaign thing. And again, on the 5 the other day, I was pretty outspoken about it. I think when it comes down to it, we saw the emotional response, how it affected the red wave, destroyed it. And I think Republicans need to start thinking about, do you want to win the election or not? And I think, like most of us grew up with Roe versus Wade, it has been kind of the staple of the land. I think the Republican Party really needs to revisit that situation. And so, because if you took that away from President Biden, what does he get to run on? If you said, listen, in terms of coming together, President Trump is going to revisit and look at Roe versus Wade. I think that would, one, show that, again, you put him on a hypocritical situation again because they're hypocrites. Here he is willing to say, okay, let's revisit this. It's not flip-flopping if you're willing to look at something what's the betterment overall for the country. And I think if you look at that and from that aspect, you take that away from Biden, what's he running on? Nothing.
Tyrus, I'm very passionately pro-life, but I'm also can at the same time be very realistic about the idea. And I say this as somebody who lives in the state of Illinois, and Illinois is flyover country for big cable networks in many cases. It's got to get real bad here before it gets the attention of doing the same things that California and New York would be center stage for. But in Illinois, when politicians take the super social conservative path in a primary and then in an eventual campaign, they lose every time in a statewide office. Yeah. We have no Republicans anywhere in statewide offices. And if you were to take a more moderate Republican, especially in the primary process, that could actually win portions of Chicago that it would need in order to win the state, we would not have the progressively advanced abortion laws in the state of Illinois that we've lost on every front on this issue that is very important to me. So to your point, I don't feel like I need to compromise my life begins at conception pro-life belief to also at the same time acknowledge that if the way you're fighting is a guaranteed loss, then you have to change up the game.
You have to. And just that word, that putting it on his campaigns, it's literally above his head when he speaks. So that's what the game is running. And I just feel like at some point, that's at least 15 million votes, in my opinion, which is the difference between being elected and not being elected.
So, Tyrus, if you take that arrow out of the quiver for Biden, if you eliminate the abortion one as much as you possibly can and make that effective play from a campaign standpoint, because you're not going to win making that the Republican thing that we beat our fists on the table about, what are the issues that you want to see the Republicans, top to bottom of the ticket, Donald Trump at the top, pushing? Where do they need to have the conversation surrounding in order to get people to maybe lift their heads from where they've thought before about Donald Trump? Maybe I couldn't vote for him before, but maybe in this year.
I think two things will happen if we took that from them. You would force him into debates, because now he can't run on, I'm not talking to this barbarian, extreme convicted felon. He would be forced to have a debate, which in itself would be game over for the Biden campaign. The Democrats would scramble and maybe even think about trying to replace him and all this other kind of, but it'll be too late for all that. I think that's the big thing. I think it brings it down to the issues, and then he'll have to discuss and debate the economy, because they've been very clever. Like, they don't include groceries and gas prices in saying the economy is improving. Like, they do little things that President Trump will expose them for in a debate, and it will have to be on that stand. So he'll force him out of the basement.
Yeah.
By taking that argument away, because that's going to be the entire campaign, is that President Trump's a convicted felon, and they're going to take away your rights as a woman. That's what they're running on. And it's worked.
When you see President Biden delivering speeches and, telling it and saying out loud pause and, end of quote and all of these things, do you think that changes anybody's mind if they hate Trump enough? Does that matter?
It should. Any other job, he would have been sent home. If he was making announcements at Walmart on sale products and was reading the pauses and the sots and
true.
He would have been fired that day. Like, you couldn't tell the difference. So it should scare everybody. The real question is who's writing this stuff for him? That should be the question. Well, because that's the real issue, is who's running the White House. Because it's not the guy who's reading pause. No one would let that guy in. Just take Biden out of it. In any situation, if you had anyone on your radio team who read the directions while reading the ads, how long would you let them do it for?
Right. Yeah, we've said this before. Like, would you trust Joe Biden to get your McDonald's order right?
No.
I actually would bet money that he would get it wrong. I would be shocked if he got it right.
He wouldn't come back. He wouldn't make it.
Sir. Yeah,
or come back with like Wendy's and Arby's and then yell at you
for wanting the wrong thing. Tyrus is with us right now. We have a YouTube poll every day. Today's is you spend time in New York City. Do you think that Donald Trump can win New York?
No, unfortunately. I'd be surprised. They're just too embedded, and they don't live. It's not a debate here. It's just like, can he win in California? No, unfortunately. The base is just the base, and they're not great. Would it be based on what's going on in our country? You would think they would want to change across the top. But again, sometimes the tent is way bigger than the window on the tent to see what's going on outside.
I look at Joe Biden doesn't have anything to offer. And when I listen to him talk, I listen with that wince that it's just that secondhand embarrassment that
does.
Yeah. And I don't really know when it gets down the stretch, when there's more pressure on, if I don't think he's going to be able to handle that moment. And I think haven't you
No,
said they're not going to debate? No debates.
no, and they're not going to debate a convicted felon. It's going to be a disgrace to the office of the presidency. I've been saying this for a year and a half now. Like, there's no debate. We might have VP debates, and that won't be much better. But he's going to try to. The Democratic Party is going to try to swing it to where he would be a horrible president to debate. He might as well debate with Kim Jong Un. Mm-hmm. That's what they're going to do. They're going to equate it to, or knowing them, probably Hitler, because that seems to be one of their magic comparisons, which is uncomparable. But that's what they're going to do. I mean, they're literally telling us that he's going to kill his enemies and then
Hillary.
Democracy is going to be over. So there's no filter, really, instead of just saying we're going to beat them on the issues, because they're not. They ran their elitist agenda for 3 years now, and the country is not better for it. And they're not going to give that up.
Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, these stories continue to be repeated, and it doesn't rise to be more important to talk about than immunity hearings at the Supreme Court or Alvin Bragg in Manhattan or whatever it might be. But Christopher Wray keeps saying, in charge of the FBI, we are under an imminent threat. And I wish that we spent more time talking about that. I don't have any information. I'm assuming that you don't have any inside intel on what that threat is. But I keep thinking, like, in the places like New York, in Chicago, and Chicago has shown some eyes wide open about the way that city is being run right now. I don't know if it's going to turn Illinois red or anything, but I'm just asking myself, when I hear the FBI director say there is a threat upon us, what it's going to take for Americans to realize that the person who has his hands on the wheel isn't actually the president of the United States. We don't know who it is. We don't know who's running the show.
Well, we're just speculating, but I'm assuming what he's basically telling us is it's already here, and it's strolled in through the border. And now saying that it's imminent, it's been here. We've been playing fools. They've been doing this for 3 years, the influx in this country. We have no idea who's here. And a lot of times, only when we catch them do we find out the level of criminal that has crossed these borders. And so, again, you can say there's good people, this, that, whatever, but if everyone was getting vetted, we would have a better grip on what's here. So a lot of military-age men, single young men, have strolled into this country with no vetting process, and the FBI is doing the best cover their butt scenario, saying that it's imminent or it's possibly coming. You knew what it was. You guys chose to do nothing. And so is there a cell here or two in New York? I wouldn't be surprised at all. I would not be surprised at all. And then when the how did this happen? That's when I will get upset. You know exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
What did you think was going to happen with the open border?
Yeah. I mean, it's not hard to figure out. That's for certain.
Yeah. So
before we let you go,
they're telling us they've already peed down our back, and now they tell us there's a slight chance there might be pee.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Oh no, I didn't see that coming. The Boston Red Sox are 14-11. The St. Louis Cardinals are 11-14. How you feeling?
Yep, and we've played in our division one time, and we're swept. So yeah, as long as we keep playing the Pittsburgh Pirates, we're going to look great.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Pittsburgh Pirates
we can play them 100 more times, I think
in last place in the National League Central Division, and we're not going to talk about who is.
Mark my words. But it's our bet.
Yeah,
you'll see.
Okay, I got the size 8 hat at the ready right now.
Okay.
Tyrus,
right.
Thank you. Talk to you again soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.